Welcome back. Now, dominating news headlines last week, ANC Youth League President Julius Malema led a song with words, "Shoot the Boers," which caused an uproar to some. And ANC spokesperson Jackson Mthembu is facing charges of drunken driving after being caught driving under the influence in Cape Town. And over the weekend, the ANC Youth League emerged as a lobbyist in a lucrative empowerment deal in Limpopo. To engage us on this discussion, we've invited Vareshni Pillay, managing editor of the Mail and Guardian online. Vareshni, thanks so much for joining us. Always good to see you. The newsroom continues to be a buzz. I'm not sure if we were to deprive Julius Malema of media attention, whether he'd go away or not.
Shrivel up and down maybe without all the attention, yes.
But let's look at what made newspaper headlines over the weekend, starting with the Mail and Guardian on Friday.
Well, it has been a Malema-dominated weekend. I mean, the headlines are coming thick and fast about Malema. We had an exclusive interview with Jacob Zuma, our first interview with him since he became president. And this is clearly, you know, because the Mail and Guardian is quite critical, quite investigative. So it was quite nice to have that opportunity to interview him. One of the big things that emerged from our interview was him saying yet again he refuses to muzzle Malema. Now this came in the wake of those statements you just said, the ones, you know, singing "Kill the Boer" song, you know, and calling Helen Zille a Satanist, all those statements.
And we're not even going to go with what he said about Patricia de Lille.
Oh, well, there we go. You know, she doesn't deserve to have a husband, apparently. But Malema has, well, Jacob Zuma has said, particularly on the nationalization debate, on nationalizing the mines, that he refuses to muzzle Malema, and that Malema is allowed to bring up these things, and he doesn't necessarily agree with them, but he's allowed to bring them up.
Yeah, but also if you look at issues of national unity and the fact that some of the statements are obviously not necessarily conducive in the fragile democracy that we still enjoy. Yes, he's got the right to express what he feels, but there needs to be a responsibility or consequence
of course
around his statements.
And today we're seeing the ruling from the Equality Court on you know, the statements he made about the woman in the rape case, you know, and that's following, we're going to have that ruling coming, and yet now there's more kind of controversy around him and his statement. So that was an old controversial statement that we're going to see a ruling on today. Yeah. So maybe there'll be more rulings around him. We'll have to see what happens later today.
Okay, something else was Minister Siphiwe Nyanda's five-star hotel binge. Communications Minister rejecting palatial state home and spends a fortune in taxpayers' money in Cape Town hotels.
Yeah.
Is the state accommodation just not good enough, is it?
Well, we've seen several things coming out of his department and communications. One of the things is that he didn't have a bed. Furniture wasn't ready, but we've also heard that furniture was delivered on 2 dates in February. So, you know, furniture is there. It's a lovely place in Cape Town where he should be staying, but he hasn't stayed there one single night. In fact, he's been using the luscious hotels. He's been using the 12 Apostles Hotel in Cape Town. Fabulous. Very nice. And I think the other one is a Mount Nelson. So, I mean, the minimum price for a room there is 4,000 Rand, but he stays in luxury suites, you know, with his bodyguards and so on. So it really is very shocking. I mean, we've got invoices for 2 bills in February, one for about 30,000, the other one for about 20,000. But if he had to attend all Parliament days since he was elected in May, that would be about 88 days, he could have racked up 400,000 Rand in hotel bills. I mean, we saw the police minister, Nathi Mthethwa, land in hot water for precisely this issue in Cape Town as well, and that was for spending 200,000, just over 200,000 Rand.
Are we a society maybe not vigilant enough, vociferous enough? Are we not, besides the debate, you know, and maybe the chats we have around cocktails and that, what more can you do?
Of course,
excuse me, to highlight the fact that, look, it's just ethically incorrect for you to stay at a luxury hotel while you're supposed to be, you know, servicing the poor.
And in fact, one of the weekend papers, I forget which one, has Kader Asmal calling for a review of the ethics, you know, handbook for ministers and cabinet, and just calling for more vigilance and more integrity in our leaders.
Okay, and then there's the issue of the 250 million Rand mining deal. Again, Malema making headlines in the Sunday Times. We said that this deal particularly seems to favor those with political clout around the ANC.
Yeah, and the tragedy, of course, with this deal is that it was originally meant to be a broad-based black economic empowerment deal. And, of course, the irony is that Malema has really lobbied for, you know, the poor and disenfranchised in our country to be empowered. And here he is in backdoor dealings getting this deal for politically connected. We've got people like Kgalame Motlante's son, Irvin Khoza, benefiting from this deal instead of the poor in the community who were supposed to benefit from it.
Okay. Again, I mean, now that the information is in the public domain, the deal is probably going to be processed. They're successful bidders, and they're going to go in there, you know, line their pockets, and then what?
Yeah.
One hopes that it will cascade down to the poor, one way or the other.
Yeah, one hopes people will notice that these things are happening.
Yeah, and the protests seemingly are just springing up all over the place. We even heard from COSATU that they are likely to strike during the World Cup, particularly for the 25% of the Eskom tariff price increases. We hear now in Soweto the BRT system, we're not negotiating adequately, because clearly there's still some dissatisfaction between the taxi associations and government.
And of course there was the massive service delivery protest that happened last week, and now this week, like you said, the BRT protest. We're going to see a lot of problems with that in terms of people getting out of Soweto. There's roads being barricaded. You know, the taxi association, I think it's UTAF, are just completely, you know, not negotiating anymore. So I think what's terrifying about this is that I've just heard that potentially a bus has been set alight. So we just hope that, you know, things don't spiral out of control today, the day that the BRT is supposed to launch in Johannesburg. Should be an occasion to celebrate, but we're seeing protests instead.
We absolutely have to mention political activist and prolific author Fatima Meer, who was laid to rest over the weekend, and really given the send-off that she deserves.
Yeah, and I mean that, you know, she had a stroke a few weeks ago, and I think this was coming for a while, and it really is so tragic. But again, at her funeral, you see that her brother took the opportunity to make a veiled attack on Malema and kind of these opportunistic leaders in the ANC, and, you know, calling for a return to what the movement was based on, you know, freedom for all and so on. And I mean, Fatima Meer herself was just, you know, such an amazing activist, someone who really didn't answer to any movement, but answered to her own, you know, kind of truth. And I think one of the most powerful moments for me was when she once made, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, she was at graduation ceremony at Rhodes, and Mandela was there as well, and they were both, you know, so old, and she kind of just made this very harsh statement about how the ANC is failing the people, and yet Nelson Mandela still stood up at the end of her speech and held her hand and just, you know, congratulated her for being so honest and so truthful. Yeah. That's the kind of person she was.
And living to her conviction, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. No, thanks so much as always, Virginie. Enjoy the rest of the week, and I'm sure you'll be digging up. The Jub Jub story is going to be making headlines this week.
Exactly.
But we'll catch up with you another time.
Thank you,
Thanks
Cindy.
so much. Much appreciated. We're speaking to Virginie Pillay, managing editor of the Mail and Guardian online, and you can go to mg.co.za for more details. We'll take a quick ad break. We'll see you on the other side.